Well, I really didn't want to have to make this video, but after sitting with this for a couple of days, I feel like it's time we talk about the failed state of jazz guitar education. Some of you may not know me, so for a little context, my name is Chase Maddox. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and I think seriously about how people actually learn, whether that's jazz guitar or other subjects. For example, during COVID, when gigs dried up, I took a job teaching college level calculus for a year. So this is something I care about deeply, not just in music, and that's what this video is really about. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, but I do ask that you watch the whole video first because I might address something you feel the need to comment on before you actually get there. Okay, so a couple of days ago, I posted a video called Barry Harris Was Teaching This the Whole Time, where I talk about what's actually missing in how most people learn Barry Harris's jazz language, or really any jazz language. And I want to show you a comment that was left on that video. Before I do, I want to tell you who wrote it because that context matters. So this is Chris Parks. He runs a YouTube channel called Things I Learned from Barry Harris with around 35,000 subscribers. He's also the main guitar instructor at Open Studio, teaching there 6 days a week, one of the most recognized jazz education platforms online. He's widely considered the Barry Harris guitar educator in the general community and is one of only a small number of guitarists known to have studied directly with Barry himself alongside people like Jens Larsen and Tim Fitzgerald, among others. So this is what he wrote on my video. I'll read it for you. This is probably the most ignorant take on Barry Harris material I have ever seen, and that's really saying something. And here's how I responded. As a fellow teacher, it would be more useful to explain why this is ignorant. People are more than welcome to check out your video on the topic and decide for themselves. I'll link it here. And then I linked to his video where he's teaching Barry Harris's 5-4-3-2 concept. So I think what's happening here is worth talking about because it's so much bigger than just this little argument between me and Chris Parks. This is a pattern in jazz education that I think is genuinely holding students back. If you're learning jazz guitar, this is holding you back. Now, some of you may know this is not the first time something like this has happened to me. A while back, another educator, someone whose name rhymes with Feeder Perel, publicly called me a clown of a jazz guitar teacher and claimed I had no right to be teaching George Benson's ideas.
As a matter of fact, this asshole, I can say that because I think someone that teaches what he doesn't know, he's an asshole.
So I heard someone's been talking about me recently. So I reached out to Benson's manager directly. We had a very productive conversation where they encouraged me to continue with my Benson lessons, and it even eventually led to me getting exclusive access to transcribe and teach parts of Benson's playing from an album he was about to release. So I had to ask myself, why are these reactions keep happening to me? And I think it's because I'm asking challenging questions about how and why things are being taught in music education. So this will occasionally make people uncomfortable, especially people who have built their identity around being the authority on that material. So I understand that, but discomfort here is not an argument. And Chris's response is a perfect example of what happens when someone can't actually make an argument. About 16 hours after his first comment and my reply, he came back with this. So I'll read it here because it's a little bit long. This is my second attempt to post a response. You and I are not the same. I've spent the last 8 years of my life sharing with anyone and everyone who would listen some of the things I was fortunate enough to learn from Barry. I and thousands of others were blessed to be able to learn from him directly. I have never posted and will never post a concept of his that I'm not sure about. I never changed the words he used or the concepts he talked about. I try to pass them on humbly and with integrity. You chose to make a video about his concept using his name and admit almost proudly you have no idea where its name is derived. You then imply that you can somehow make it better. The whole thing is a mess. You should consider taking it down and checking out some of the other videos of Barry himself teaching and using these ideas. Again, you and I are not the same. I replied, agreed, we are not the same. I challenge ideas and explain my reasoning. You've made 2 public attacks without once explaining why I'm wrong. So still no explanation of what was wrong with my video, but I actually think it's worth unpacking what he said. The first thing is this is just disrespectful to a fellow educator. We are both trying to help students learn. Whatever disagreement exists about our approach, the basic fact should create some level of professional respect. The second is he's being evasive. 2 comments and still not a single word about what was wrong with my video. If this was really the most ignorant take on Barry Harris, wouldn't there be ample evidence for him to mention in his comments? I asked him directly, my reply is right there, and he just responded with more assertion, not any argument. And this last one is the one I find the most interesting. He implies that by admitting uncertainty about the origin of a concept name, it's somehow a mark against me. And I really disagree with that. Being transparent about what you know and what you don't know is not a weakness in teaching. It's the mark of someone who respects the intelligence of their students, you guys as the listeners, and pretending to be certain about something you don't know is what undermines trust, not being honest about what we do and don't know. Okay, so what's actually going on here? I think it comes down to a few interconnected problems in how jazz education works. The first is this appeal to authority over actual reasoning and thought. The implicit argument here, whether it's Chris Parks or Peter Perel, in both of these situations is I studied with the master, therefore my perspective is valid and yours isn't. And this is where lineage becomes the argument. Your proximity to greatness is your credential. Anyone outside the inner circle, which is most of us, is just expected to defer. There's a real problem with that. Even among people who were genuinely in the room with Barry Harris, have different recollections of what was said and how it was taught. Tim Fitzgerald, who also studied directly with Barry and has done master classes inside Chase's Guitar Academy, has different recollections from what Chris Parks is claiming. It's just his interpretation of what he learned, and Tim is very intellectually honest about those ideas being his understanding of what Barry Harris taught, not Barry Harris's actual method. So there is no single authoritative account being passed down intact. There never is. The second problem is, even if there was this clean lineage, it wouldn't settle the actual question. Being in the room tells me nothing about whether your explanation is correct, clear, or even useful to students. These are completely separate questions. The third problem here is what this does as a culture to the community. I have many students and community members who have told me directly that they feel like they can't even engage publicly in jazz education circles because the moment you question any established figure, you risk exactly this kind of response. There's no counter argument, and you just get publicly attacked from someone who has a large platform or following. So they stay quiet. And the ideas that deserve scrutiny don't get it. This final problem is the most serious one to me, and the one that really, really angers me. When a student doesn't understand a concept, the most common assumption is that the failure is theirs. They feel like they're not smart enough, they're not musical enough, maybe not dedicated enough. And for a lot of people, that assumption doesn't just make them frustrated, it actually makes them quit. They walk away from jazz guitar after years of trying, convinced that they simply don't have what it takes. And I've seen students in their late 70s make substantial, meaningful progress in their jazz guitar playing after decades of feeling this way. Decades of believing the problem was them when it never was. Anyone can learn jazz guitar at any stage of life. But this kind of culture that insulates its authorities from scrutiny makes it nearly impossible to ask questions that would actually help. Is the explanation the problem, not the student? If someone watches my lessons and isn't getting it, it's either because they're missing some prerequisite context or I haven't found the right way to explain it for how their mind works. Either way, it's my problem to solve, and it's not their problem for how they're absorbing the material. So I'm on a mission for that pattern to stop, and that's why I had to make this video. You, as someone who's trying to get better at jazz guitar, need to be aware of this explicitly so you don't quit on learning just because you run into these issues. It's a difficult but incredibly rewarding art form that I want you guys to keep practicing. So let me tell you what my Barry Harris video was actually saying, since Chris never engaged with it. This video is about something bigger than just the 5-4-3-2 concept. It's about what's missing in most students and teachers' understanding of how to learn jazz language at all. Learning great pieces of language, whether that's the 5-4-3-2 or anything else, is not enough on its own. Students need a real systematic guide on how to connect these ideas together in actual music. And that's what I addressed extensively in that video. The content was clear and accurate. What I was uncertain about was the origin of the specific name 5-4-3-2, since Tim also calls it 5-4-3-2-1, and that's a separate thing entirely. After the video went up, actually, a viewer left a comment explaining that the phrases are named for the scale degree where each one leaves the scale and leaps, which is a reasonable explanation. I don't know that it's that helpful, but I appreciated the commenter leaving that. And this is exactly the kind of exchange that should happen in this space. It's also worth noting that Chris himself did not really explain the origin of what 5-4-3-2 means, besides giving different rules for every single scale degree, which is an arbitrary way of explaining the origin. Being called ignorant for the same gap that exists in his own teaching is a bit of a stretch. But the naming question is not even an interesting one, to me at least. The more interesting questions are ones that I haven't seen people answer. Why these 4 specific phrases and not others, 5-4-3-2? Are these variations of more fundamental patterns? Are there other chromaticisms like these that work the same way? Are there rules for when you should or shouldn't make that kind of leap? How do you go beyond explicitly playing 5-4-3-2 to explore the language more freely? So the name tells you where each phrase leaps from, but it doesn't tell you anything about why the phrase is constructed the way it is once it leaps, or how you as a student develop musical judgment to use any of it. Jens Larsen, who also studied with Barry, frames the 4 phrase as a chromatic enclosure, connecting it to a broader musical concept, and says that that's not how Barry ever described it as an enclosure, even though he used that same approach. So those are 2 people who are in the same room and just have 2 different lenses on the same material. I wouldn't say that either one of those is wrong, but it just shows us that even at the highest level, we have to be open to those questions. Go watch Chris's video on 5-4-3-2. I'll link it below. He demonstrates each phrase beautifully and clearly. But then around the 3:15 mark, he shows ways of using these phrases together to connect with other ideas. And it sounds great. But he doesn't teach you how to do that. There's no explanation of each of those decision-making processes. No guidance on how a student is supposed to get from practicing each phrase in isolation to stringing them together in a real solo. He shows you what the destination looks like, but the road between here and there is left unaddressed. And that's what my video addressed. I see this gap all the time with students where they can learn the lick, but they don't know how to apply it. And that's a massive gap that needs to be filled that I was trying to address in that video. It wasn't a claim about what is or isn't Barry Harris's method. This is not a challenge to material itself, and I actually say in that video that the material from Barry Harris is great. The gap between Chris's demonstration there and what a student actually needs to be able to do that is a legitimate question. And the response was, this is the most ignorant take I've ever seen. I want to show you guys what the alternative here looks like, not because I'm asking you to take my word for it, but because I think the contrast is instructive. When I built my Essential Jazz Patterns curriculum, I did start with lineage, but not with what people say to do or who they claim to have learned from. I went to the real source, the recordings. What did these players actually play? Not what they taught, not what their students remembered, but what is actually on the records. I went through hundreds, if not thousands, of jazz solos and analyzed them systematically. What phrases actually appear, how often, in what combinations, and from that research, I identified 9 core essential jazz patterns. Then I spent hours cross-referencing them, finding every combination of those patterns in real recordings with specific solos and timestamps I can point to. I can show you the data, I'll put some of it here. I can show you the work. Not trust me, bro, here's the recording, here's the timestamp, hear it for yourself. If you want to know how the pivot arpeggio connects to a 3-note enclosure, I can show you the exact part of the Pat Martino recording where it happens. I've also changed my mind based on better evidence. That curriculum started with 31 patterns. After further research and work with my students, I showed that 9 captured the essential language more cleanly, so I revised it. And that's what the process looks like when you're accountable to evidence rather to an authority. My Master Standards Blueprint worked from the same principle. Instead of handing students a list of top jazz standards and saying, hey, learn these, learn audibly, all the things you are, Stella by Starlight, I analyzed how do these standards relate to each other harmonically? Is there a better method to learning these instead of a random order, so that each song you learn becomes a logical prerequisite for the next one? A structured learning sequence built on actual harmonic relationship in the music. I have the data on this too, and I can show the connections. This is the standard that I'm working toward. Going towards the source, showing your work, having the data to back it up, being transparent and honest when you're uncertainty, revising your ideas when better information is presented. So it's now been about 2 days since Chris called my video the most ignorant take he's ever seen. My reply asking him to explain why is sitting there in the comments of that original video, which I'll also link below. He has not responded as of this recording, not to me, not to the viewers who have weighed in on this exchange, not to anyone to my knowledge. And the question I asked, the same question I'm asking in this video, remains unanswered. I think his silence is more instructive than anything else I could say here. If he has a reasoned argument for why what I said was so ignorant, I'm interested in that conversation. Bring it. That kind of exchange makes everyone's teaching better, and it's exactly what students deserve. If you want to work through jazz guitar material that I can back up with evidence and reasoning, and where you're not just allowed, but actively encouraged to ask hard questions for the purpose of learning and building together, that's what's happening inside Chase's Guitar Academy. The link to that is below. What students of all ages don't deserve is a culture where asking questions gets you publicly dismissed by people with large platforms and institutional credibility, where the answer to why is always because the master said so, where the failure of an explanation gets blamed on the student instead of examined by the teacher. I'll link to Chris's original Barry Harris video in the description. Watch it, make up your own mind. That's all I'm asking. Thanks for listening.